Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we are going to be talking about some really cool research about how AI is getting better at basically seeing our screens,
Yeah.
like actually understanding all the buttons and icons and menus and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is super interesting because I feel like we talk a lot about how AI is so good at language and reasoning
Right.
and all that stuff, but it's like this whole visual side of how we interact with computers
hmm
is something that AI has kind of struggled with.
Yeah, and I think what's really cool about this research is that we're talking about AI that can actually use our computers and our phones
Right.
and not just be good at, writing us poems or
Right.
something.
Or like, coming up with marketing copy or whatever. It's like actually being able to use the tools that we use every single day.
Exactly. And so this new technique that we're talking about is called OmniParser. And basically what it does is it analyzes a screenshot of a user interface. And then it figures out, okay, where are all the buttons and the icons and the menus and things like that?
So it's like it's taking a picture and then it's highlighting all of the important stuff.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So it's identifying the regions of the screen that are likely to be interactive,
Okay.
and then it goes a step further.
Okay.
And it actually tries to understand what each of those elements does.
Interesting.
So, for example, if there's a button, it might say, okay, this is a play button, or this is a pause button, or this is a submit button.
So it's not just seeing a rectangle. It's understanding that that rectangle means
Exactly.
play or pause or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's really cool about this is that it's not just identifying the visual elements, it's also adding this layer of semantic understanding.
Right. So it's like it's understanding the meaning behind the picture,
Yeah.
not just the picture itself.
Exactly. And that's really important because it allows these AI agents to actually understand what they're looking at.
Okay.
And so they did a bunch of experiments to see how well this technique actually works. And the results are pretty impressive.
But like how impressive were we
So in
talking?
one experiment, they gave an AI agent a task to click on a particular element on a screen.
Okay.
Like, click on the settings icon or something.
Mm-hmm.
And without OmniParser, the AI was only able to do this correctly about 70% of the time.
Oh, wow. So that's... no.
But with OmniParser, the accuracy jumped up to over 90%.
Wow. Okay. That's a huge improvement.
Yeah, it's a really big improvement.
So just adding that layer of understanding of like what each of those things actually means
Exactly.
really helps the AI.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference, and not just for simple tasks like clicking on an icon, but also for more complex tasks like, navigating a website
Oh, interesting.
or
Okay.
using a mobile app.
So it's not just like a one-trick pony. It can actually handle all kinds of different interfaces.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what's really exciting about this is that it's a very general technique that can be applied to lots of different applications.
So is this something that they compared against other AI systems that were specifically designed to do this kind of thing?
Yeah, they actually did compare it to other systems that were designed specifically for understanding user interfaces. And what's really interesting is that OmniParser actually outperformed these specialized systems in some of the experiments,
Whoa. Okay. So it's like
which suggests,
even better than AI that's specifically designed.
which suggests that this technique is really powerful and it might be a better way to help AI understand how user interfaces work.
So it's almost like it's learning something fundamental about how we design and how we use interfaces that even these really specific systems
Yeah.
haven't quite figured out yet.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really cool finding. And it kind of begs the question of like, okay, if AI can now understand our screens as well as we can, what does that mean for all of us?
Yeah. Where do we go from here?
Like, what are the implications of this technology?
Well, I guess that's what we're going to be talking about for the rest of this deep dive. So
Exactly.
let's jump into it.
So one of the things that really impressed me about this OmniParser thing was how well it did on those tests with websites.
Yeah, the Mind2Web benchmark, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It was crazy to me that it could like complete those tasks without even looking at the website's code.
Yeah, no, it's mind-blowing, isn't it? It's like it's understanding the website just from the visual.
Right, like how we do.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we don't need to see the code to know how to use a website.
Mhm.
We just look for the buttons and the menus and stuff.
Right, and it's figuring all that out just from the screenshots and the descriptions.
Which I guess is where those local semantics come in.
Yeah, exactly. Those are key.
It's crazy to think that like AI could eventually design websites better than humans could.
Well, I don't know about that. I think
Yeah.
human designers will always have a role to play.
Yeah, true.
But it's definitely possible that AI could help us design more effective and intuitive websites,
Yeah, for sure.
especially as it gets better at understanding how humans interact with those websites.
Right, like what are the things that we look for? What are the things that we click on?
Exactly. And then maybe even being able to predict what we might want to do next.
It's a little scary to think about, but also really exciting.
Yeah, for sure. It's a whole new frontier.
So besides websites, you mentioned earlier that they also tested OmniParser on mobile apps.
Yeah, they used a benchmark called AITW,
Right, AITW.
which focuses specifically on navigating mobile apps.
Right, like ordering food or booking a ride or something.
Exactly, those kinds of everyday tasks that we all do on our phones.
And it did well on those too.
Yeah, it did really well, actually. In fact, it even outperformed some AI models that were specifically designed for understanding Android icons.
Wow, so again, it's showing that this general approach is really powerful.
Yeah, it's not just a one-trick pony. It seems to work across different platforms and different types of interfaces.
So it's like it's learning something fundamental about how interfaces work in general?
Exactly, and that's what makes this research so groundbreaking. It's not just a small improvement. It's a potential paradigm shift in how we think about AI and user interfaces.
It's like giving AI the keys to the digital kingdom.
Exactly. And with that comes a lot of responsibility.
Hmm.
We need to make sure that we're developing this technology safely and ethically.
Right, like what are some of the potential downsides or risks that we should be thinking about?
Well, one concern is that AI agents could be used to manipulate or deceive users.
Oh yeah, like tricking people into clicking on things that they don't want to click on.
Exactly. Or even stealing their personal information.
Right, so it's like we need to make sure that these AI agents are aligned with our values.
Yeah. And that they're being used for good, not for harm.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some of the things that researchers are doing to address these concerns?
Well, one area of focus is on developing techniques for making AI agents more transparent.
Okay, so like being able to understand how they're making decisions.
Exactly, so that we can identify and correct any biases or errors.
Right, because if these AI agents are going to be interacting with our digital world, we need to be able to trust them.
Exactly, trust is essential.
And another thing that I've heard people talking about is the need for regulation.
Yeah, definitely. As AI becomes more powerful, we need to have clear guidelines and regulations in place to ensure that it's being used responsibly.
Right. It's like with any new technology, there's always a risk that it could be misused. So we need to be proactive in putting safeguards in place.
Exactly. Prevention is key.
So it sounds like there's a lot of work to be done, both on the technical side and on the ethical and societal side.
Yeah, it's a multifaceted challenge, but it's also an incredibly exciting opportunity to shape the future of technology.
Yeah, and ultimately to make the digital world a better place for everyone.
Absolutely. I think that's a great goal to strive for.
So where do we go from here? What are the next steps in this research?
Well, one area that researchers are exploring is how to make AI agents even better at understanding complex or ambiguous interfaces.
Okay, so like interfaces that even humans might struggle with.
Exactly like those with a lot of clutter or inconsistent design.
Right, because the real world is messy.
It is, and AI needs to be able to handle that messiness if it's going to be truly useful.
And another area of focus is on developing AI agents that can learn and adapt over time.
Yeah, so that they can get better at understanding individual users' preferences and needs.
Right, so it's like a personalized AI assistant that knows how you like to use your computer or your phone.
Exactly, an AI that can anticipate your next move and make your life easier.
That would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, it would, and I think we're getting closer to that reality every day.
Well, I'm excited to see what the future holds for this technology.
Me too. It's an exciting time to be working in this field.
So we've talked about AI understanding our screens better than the code, but what does that actually mean for, like, the future of software?
Well, it kind of makes you wonder if we're going to move away from a code-centric view of software to something that's more interface-driven.
Yeah, like you were saying earlier about how the interface could become the foundation.
Right, exactly. Like instead of building software from the inside out with the code as the starting point, we might start building it from the outside in with the interface as the priority.
So it's like the interface becomes the blueprint,
Exactly, and the code is just the implementation details.
which is a pretty radical shift.
It is, and it has huge implications for how we design, develop, and even think about software.
Like if AI can understand our interfaces better than we understand the code, that means those interfaces are becoming a new kind of language.
Right, a visual language that both humans and machines can understand.
Which is pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
It is. It's like we're creating a new way for humans and machines to communicate.
And that opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
Exactly. Like imagine a world where you can just show your AI assistant a picture of something you want and it can go out and find it for you.
Or where you can control your entire smart home just by pointing at things on your screen.
The possibilities are endless. But of course, there are also challenges.
right? Like, how do we ensure that these interfaces are designed in a way that's accessible to everyone?
Exactly. We need to make sure that everyone can benefit from this new technology, not just people who are tech savvy.
And there's also the question of security and privacy.
Right. We need to make sure that these AI-powered interfaces are secure and that our personal data is protected.
So there's a lot to think about.
There is. But I'm optimistic about the future. I think this technology has the potential to make our lives easier, more productive, and more fulfilling.
I agree. It's an exciting time to be alive, and I can't wait to see what the future holds.
Me too. Thanks for having me on the show today. It's been a great conversation.
It has. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI and user interfaces. We hope you learned something new and that you'll keep exploring these fascinating topics.
Until next time, keep diving deep.